Alright, what about defenses to negligence? Well, you have contributory negligence and comparative negligence. Under contributory negligence, if you contributed to the negligence, then you are barred from recovery. Very few states follow this. Whereas comparative negligence, if you are comparatively negligent, meaning even just a little bit negligent, whatever percentage of negligence you are would be reduced from your final recovery. So if, for example, if the other party is 90% in fault and you're 10% at fault, your final judgment would be reduced by 10%. Okay. Assumption of the risk, another really interesting one. Plaintiff knowing and willingly undertaken of an activity. Now, we've all been to a baseball game, I assume. Alright, why is it that you take your ball glove to the baseball field during a game? Because a fly ball may come and you might have an opportunity to catch it. Well, knowing this, if you sit on the third base line and you get hit in the head by a foul ball, can you sue? Well, sure, you can sue, but the defense that the ball field is going to have is assumption of the risk, meaning that you assumed the risk whenever you came to the ball field and you knew there was a possibility of getting hit with a fly ball. Okay, now you're probably going to say, well, what if the person's from out of country? Yada, yada, yada. I think the ball field's still going to win. Now, strict liability. Strict products liability is unreasonably dangerous, defective products. You have production defect. Production defects, design. Losing my voice. Pardon me. Production defects, design defects, and warning defects. And what you have is when you were producing the product, Manifaces. He had this particular Manifaces had a production defect that caused this one to be bad, whereas a design defect would affect all Maniface action figures, so all of them are bad. A warning defect would be there was insufficient warnings on the product. So all these things can lead you to strict liability. Now, along with you also have respondent superior. So if I'm working for my boss and I'm doing something in the ordinary course of business that causes a tort, let the master be liable. Okay, and that's respondent superior. So my boss at the firm I'm with would be liable if I were doing something that caused a tort, that caused damage to somebody else, as long as it was within the scope of business. So my videos here. Let's say my videos were toxic, and everyone who watched my videos died in 7 days. Okay? Would my boss be liable for that? No, because this is something that I do outside the scope of the firm. Alright, so I would be liable. Don't anybody die in 7 days. Ultra hazardous activities, fireworks. That's the classic one. Alright? You can get in trouble with using fireworks, and you could go in after the manufacturer. That's pretty much been done away with, but that was the example that's always been used with me. Dram shop, tavern owner liable for intoxicated patrons. For those of y'all that have ever worked in the food service industry or if ever bartended, you know that once a person is intoxicated, you don't need to serve them, and it's because of the Dram Shop Act. What about common carriers? Folks, throw the book at common carriers. All right. If there's damage to goods being transported, to go after the common carrier. All right, except when you have acts of God, action of alien enemy. For the nerds out there, including me, this is not extraterrestrial. This is more like wartime. Order of public authority, inherent nature of the goods, misconduct of the shipper. All these things can reduce liability of the common carrier. Now, what type of damages can you get in this particular matter? Well, compensatory damage are designed to compensate you. Special damages for such as lost wages. You can also look at medical damages, that sort of thing. Anything that's designed to compensate you. Whereas you also have punitive damages, and these are designed to punish. And this, of course, goes to the case that everyone always asks me about is the Coke case. Where the young lady was getting her coffee, spilt it in her lap, got third-degree burns, and got awarded bazillions of dollars. The story behind that particular case is, and I'm going to give you the very, very short version. The attorney for McDonald's got up and made a big to-do about this was just a cup of coffee. And he says, we sell, $428 million worth of coffee in a single day. He was very obnoxious. As such, the jury turned around and gave an award to the young lady of 1 day's worth of coffee. Now, that was a story I'd always heard. Now, a couple of years ago, I actually was telling the same story, my understanding of the case, and there was a young lady in the classroom who informed me that she had a relative who was at that case, worked for Coke, and that my observation was actually correct. Now, whether or not she was brown-nosing me or whatnot, but she told me that my story was in fact true. But regardless of what it is, this is an example of punitive damages. It's designed to punish the party that has committed the bad act.